Well, we have breaking news on the search for survivors of the condo collapse in Surfside, Florida. Global Affairs Canada now confirming that the remains of one Canadian citizen has been found at the site. We know 3 other Canadians remain unaccounted for, but again, the remains of one is now being confirmed. The condo building collapsed in the night nearly 2 weeks ago, and crews have been searching for survivors around the clock ever since. Well, with that, let's go to Washington right now. Farrah Merali standing by with details for us today. So Farrah, let's begin with this news from Global Affairs. What exactly are we learning?
So, Michael, we heard from authorities on the ground in Surfside, Florida yesterday that 4 more bodies were pulled from the rubble of this collapse, bringing the total number of confirmed dead to 28. As you mentioned, Global Affairs Canada has now confirmed to CBC News that one of the dead is a Canadian. And I'm going to pull up the statement that they sent to us just this morning. It says, Canada sends its deepest condolences to the family and friends who lost a loved one in the building collapse in Surfside, Florida. Global Affairs Canada can confirm that the remains of one Canadian citizen were found at the site. At least 3 other Canadian citizens remain unaccounted for, and 3 different families have been affected by this tragedy. We don't yet know the identity of this Canadian, Michael, but what we do know is that search crews were able to access a larger part of the collapse site yesterday after the last remaining part of this building was demolished, and it was after it was demolished that these 4 bodies were discovered, pulled from the rubble. We also know that Canadian consular officials are on the ground in Miami, and they are working with some of the victims' families.
Now, as we look at the site right now, Surfside, we're switching over to Key West, Florida, because this could very much well complicate the search. We're now looking again at Key West as Tropical Storm Elsa makes its way to Florida. We know that Tropical Storm has already caused so much damage in countries in the Caribbean. Farrah, talk to us about the search. What's the latest there? What are people saying about perhaps the impact of Elsa?
Well, the good news, Michael, is that the path of the storm is set to hit the west part of Florida, and Surfside is, of course, on the east. But we know that search crews have already been feeling some of the impacts of this storm. Yesterday, they were contending with heavy winds and rain. They had to pause their search at time because of just how intense this weather was. They had said yesterday that they would have to pause if winds picked up above 50 kilometers an hour. But we know that at this hour, search crews are back at it. They're on that concrete mound, continuing their search and rescue mission. But as you mentioned, Elsa has had a deadly path. We know it already killed 1 person in St. Lucia, 2 people in the Dominican Republic. We know it made landfall in Cuba, luckily in a mostly rural area. The storm weakened as it crossed the island, but what we're now hearing is that the U.S. National Hurricane Center says that the storm is expected to hit near the Florida Keys today, as you mentioned, and then pass over the western part of Florida. And in anticipation of that, we are hearing that some businesses in Key West will be closed today. We've been seeing images of people sandbagging their properties in the area around Tampa Bay. Again, that's on the west part of Florida. But of course, all eyes are going to be on how this is going to be impacting the search efforts on the east side in Surfside, Florida.
Farrah, thank you for that. Our Farrah Merali in Washington.